Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Wednesday Night Live, episode 1. I can't wait to share it with you. How's that for a freshen up? My God, have we been busy and right to the last minute, right up until logging on, I've been scrambling, trying to get all the last bits and bobs finished. So not everything looks completely different. I am still in the same place. However, tonight's show is going to consist of 3 main sort of pillars, and that's going to be the format every week. So first of all, we're going to have a quick catch up on a few bits, probably talk about the weather as per usual. We need to, being in Britain, certainly at this time of year. And then we're going to move to question time, not completely abandoned. We've got that segment, so we're going to give some time to that to run through some questions. However, not the usual hour that we used to dedicate to it. I have then got a pre-recorded video that is very, very informative. I think you're going to find it very useful. So this segment we're calling Koi Focus, and that's exactly what it's all about. It's just going to give me a little break in between all this as well. And yeah, this week's episode was actually going to be a how-to guide on netting and handling koi. However, I sort of planned to make it kind of 10, 12 minutes long. However, by the time we'd done and Aaron kind of run all the footage, it seemed like we was going to be around about 35, 40 minutes long. So having spent all the time doing that today, we ditched that part and we are now heading for tonight's, which is a nice video on Kiwa and Sahi, because I think I've seen quite a few videos and bits and bobs of people who don't really know what they're on about, oversimplifying the subject and just chucking words about that they don't really truly know the meaning of. So I thought I'd spend a bit of time busting into that. So I think whether you're a beginner or a bit more advanced on that topic already, I think there'll be something in there for you as well. And yes, then we're going to finish off with a live auction, incorporating that in. Now, that also hasn't quite gone to plan. I had 3 fish lined up. As I got back to the office, the guys have photographed them. Matt told me one was bent, the Ginring Kohaku that I had lined up from Mariama, so we've excluded that one. And as I've been sat editing the pictures, I unfortunately realised the Dainichi Showa that I've got lined up from Mona Lisa, the mouth is slightly off. However, I have still got that because it's a perfectly healthy, very decent fish. It's still in the lineup. I've just heavily reduced the starting price on it. So there's going to be a chance there on that. And then the other piece, I've got a mighty exceptional Mariyama Ginring Kohaku. It is, normal Kohaku. Absolutely stunning. Female as well, with the option for growing through till the end of March in one of the 3.5K ponds. So that's everything we've got lined up. You're seeing the frame we've got going on around. There's 2 QR codes there in the bottom to access our Telegram group and WhatsApp auction group. Now, the links are also in the description. If you're struggling with the QR code, you might get a bit of a few strange looks in the house when you're running up to the TV to scan a code. However, they are there. They do all work. And Satch has pointed out, I am really getting close with the merch now, guys. So this is another one. This is the bit of a posh gilet, they call them, isn't it? And I've also got a hoodie on. However, I'm not quite happy with the sort of print scaling on this. The quality, though, I am super happy with. It's just now working with the designers to get everything scaled up and done properly, and deciding what we're actually going to launch as merch items for you guys to get your hands on even. So, news. What have we got? Feel free to start firing in any questions, guys, as well. So the question time segment is going to come up first. So yeah, feel free to get blasting a few in. But what have I got? NND calendars. They've been a hot topic. They're on the way. They're on the way. I'm going to get something out for pre-order on them soon. It's likely going to be in the WhatsApp group. So make sure you're in there if you want to get your hands on one of those. I've got Lee, new beard going on. This is the same as it's always been, mate. In fact, it's more trim than it ever has been. You know, when I got back from Japan, I looked like a Yeti. But yeah, sorry, calendars. So yeah, in the WhatsApp group, they'll be on the Telegram. It'll be around all them channels that we've got if you want to get your hands on one of them. Not got crazy amounts, but a bit more than last year because they sold so quickly. So they are on the way. Another one, which is quite nice. We are getting to the point of, because the influx of comms coming in, my WhatsApp, everything is generally flooded. I try my best to get back to everyone. I have a habit, though. There's that much going on every day. I'll read a message. Someone will ask me a question. And before I know it, I forgot what day it is, never mind anything else. So the phone lines, we've been working on it, getting the systems installed. So very soon, the phone lines are going to be open, which is going to have access to all the different areas you might need to get to arrange your deliveries of your fish, or just get hold of someone. We've got Susan in the office, myself, Collie, you've got Matty for deliveries. So you're going to get distributed out. And yes, hopefully it'll be very, very easy to get hold of somebody as well at that point. So that's that one. What else we got? Oh, so if you watch the video on the channel at the weekend, I can't remember if it was that. It was the one on Sunday, I think. I was supposed to get my new toy this week, and unfortunately, that's been put back because it arrived shipped from abroad with a broken pipe, a rather important pipe and all that as well. And I know I'm driving a few of you crazy with it. I'll get to sharing it at some point, no doubt, and I am going to document the whole process. But I probably won't share it until it's documented and I've made a judgment on actually where it's at. Because I am very mindful that some people just like to jump on and do stuff, and I don't want people wasting money. Not that I don't actually think this piece of equipment is going to translate through to hobbyist ponds so well. I think it's very much more commercially orientated for the kind of mad stuff that I do. But nonetheless, we will see. And yeah, as Kevin pointed out here, actually, I've also had some delivery of new Oaza pumps this week, because when they were introduced to me, the new Aquamax Eco, basically, and mine are very old, not letting me down in any way whatsoever, but I'm basically getting more for less wattage. That to me is a no-brainer, and I think a worthwhile upgrade. I installed one of the 13,000s this week coming through the spray bar on the 3.5K ponds. That's just nuts. It absolutely it shakes the spray bar when it fires up. It's crazy. So we've got to get that one sorted for sure. Don't forget, guys, while I'm rambling, get some questions fired into those comments. And with that, moving back to the original bit. So part of the reason I'm not sharing about my new toy, even though I'm winding you all up with it, I'd just like to share the excitement, is because and you've probably seen this throughout, I don't just jump on the bandwagon very quickly, and I want to have a very educated, fully formed opinion with as much experience before I start talking about stuff. And that's actually brought me on recently in the Telegram group, and just around, I'm getting lots of questions. There's a couple of new products swirling around doing the rounds at the minute, and I understand why people would want my opinion on it, but I just want you guys to understand, and there it is, just come straight in the comments. Just come straight in. Yeah, you cannot, on products that we're talking about that recently just dropped, you cannot I can't form a proper opinion. This kind of stuff needs time. It really, really does need time, and a lot of it, to actually make a full opinion, chucking loads of different variables. So you've got that element to it. Plus, I am always looking for ways to improve. Don't mistake this as me being stubborn or stuck in my ways. That's not it. I'm always looking for an edge. This new toy I'm getting is an edge. It could potentially be one, hence why I'm reluctant too much to share a lot. But generally, the whole keep it simple mantra and philosophy is all about exactly that. And I'm looking around, looking for ways I can improve. But probably from you guys looking, it's, what can I do in all that? Do I need a new miracle product? Well, no, because there's nothing wrong. Everything's functioning great. I know the areas that need to improve that will get me maybe an extra 5-10%. Who knows what that will be? But we talk about a different range of food coming out from Hikari. Do I really need? Can it really improve on where I'm at with all that? I just shake my head and wonder. I've got no inclination or incentive to really want to try anything. And it's not like either I've got companies stood there chucking stuff at me going, please, please, please try this. Now, I did have one of them recently that actually did that. I made a TikTok about it because I received an email with some testing equipment and asking me to try this out. And I replied, I looked at it, I thought, you know what, that'll be worth a shot. But my reply was, yes, I would love to, but let me just be very, very upfront with you. I'm not just posting a video straight away because I understand what impact that potentially has on people. Just by me posting it could almost slightly validate it, which I wasn't prepared to do. And then I says, let me be clear, if I test it and find out that it's absolutely shit, I'm also going to tell people that I think it's shit. Funnily enough, I never got the product. I didn't even get a reply to that email, actually. So, yeah, there we have it. Still to this day, in all the years I've been doing this, there was one company years back I set out to do a food trial because bearing in mind the main fish house, there's 8 identical ponds there pretty much. Back then they were identical, run on exactly the same system and setup. And it's when I was at my dad's shop and I wanted to do a food trial. Admittedly, you got slightly different fish, but 4 ponds side by side. Let's see what happens. Let's see how they perform. Funnily enough, the first company I went to was Hikari for sake, and they threw some in straight away, no qualms. Every other company I went to after that asked me who else was doing it. The minute I mentioned Hikari, they all backed out. They wasn't prepared to do it. And I wasn't even, at that point, I had no social media or anything like that. I think I was writing in the magazines at the time, but that was the extent of it. And yeah, it's I just can't help it. I'm honest. That's how I am. That's how I have to be. So yeah, fuck it. There we go. Right, I suppose should probably move on because I've not got any other news and bits to post. So I think we should probably get into a few questions other than, obviously, I see there's supposed to be a bit of a storm coming. So please take care, guys. Make sure all them covers are fastened down because it sounds like we've got some winds coming in to absolutely batter us. I suppose before I move on, we should have a quick moment to see who we've got in tonight. And it's absolutely amazing to see what we've got. 232 people tuned in at the moment. That is greatly appreciated. So many of you supporting it. And isn't it crazy to be back to episode 1, reset that counter after all those question time episodes. Thank you very much, Craig. Yeah, the support is absolutely amazing. Crikey. Yeah, and auction-wise, so I've not done too much this evening because I'm just finding my feet with all this. You'll see when it gets going, there's quite a few moving parts to it as well. And I didn't manage to get all the other bits and bobs, everything I needed done. So I've just pulled a few bits out. Like I say, one of them's no good, but there we go. Hazy loves the QR codes. Yes, there we go. Don't forget to like. I don't know where that's coming from, Lee. I really don't. It's going to be quite interesting trying to dig the questions out of there. Right, I'm going to leave it there, guys, with those because I'm going to confuse myself. Yes. So, without further ado, let's get on with question time, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, class.
How was that for you? I told you we've been busy. Right. Yes. Let me see what we've got. I'll be with an easy one there. Hi, Ricky. I'm looking to upgrade my 8 kilowatt air source heat pump. What is the link to your WhatsApp page? Abby, you want to be in the Telegram group for that. There is a link in the description of this video on YouTube to get yourself in there if you're not already. And I have said it before, the community on there for this is absolutely amazing. The guys have done a phenomenal job, and the advice and supporting there overall is absolutely phenomenal. Let's have a look. Crikey, got to dig through all that lot again. Right there, I think that's another one there from David. With spring nearly here and fish movement for unheated, what difference in temp is safe to move them? Right, David, I suppose we're probably going here talking about moving from warm into cold, or if we are, let's go both ways. So warm to cold is always your scarier time. And for me, realistically, what also makes a difference here is where you actually go from. This is going to sound crazy, but without going into specific temperatures, in certain temperature bands, i.e. the 20s and above, water feels warm. Sort of like around the 18 kind of vibes there. It feels, between sign of 16 and 20, you probably feel it. But then all of a sudden you drop below that and it starts feeling cold. Now, what you don't want is too big of a drop, especially if you're going like from, let's say 22 to 18 quite quickly. That worries me less than going from 18 to say 14, because you're going into some cold water. You're really shutting their immune system down a lot. So hot to cold, you really need to be careful of. I personally would be looking there for no more than kind of like a few degrees if it's acclimatizing a fish into it. So like with us, with all the fish that we're overwintering currently, when it comes to the time, we will ease them off any heat that we've got and slowly drop them into ambient and give them a good prolonged period to settle into ambient before we start moving them. If you go in the other way and go in cold to warm, theoretically, and I've done this, you can go from very cold to very warm, take them out of 10, put them into 24 quite quickly. Will it induce stress? Yes, it will stress them. The problem is you probably won't see anything negative come from it because their immune system kicks in. Right, fantastic. What it can do also, though, I did stress colour on a very expensive fish doing this. I moved it too quickly, and it did stress the Benny heavily. That can happen. You need to be mindful of it. So yeah, that's kind of my guide for that. If you're going down, be careful what you're doing with it. Just a few degrees kind of in one move, and do that as gradually and steadily as you can. If you're bagging it up and floating it, remember, if you've only got a tiny bit of water, you probably might as well just move it and put it straight in, because that water is going to change in temperature very quickly. So get as much water in the bag as possible, not forgetting your air, and do it that way. But yeah, going up, I'm happy for a bigger gap going up. But again, if you're moving it in one swoop, I'd probably say realistically maybe 4 or 5 degrees, and you should mitigate any problems from that. I do hope that answers your question there, David. Right, bear with me a moment. Tony, on with Koi Talk. I'm going to get some news on that for you soon, because that is, I'm at my wit's end with it, let's say. But I'm going to keep that off this tonight. There we go. Right. What's the best way for testing for metals in water? The best way is to have this laboratory tested. My favorite test kit for doing this, it's called Ivario Home Test. That's spelled IVARIO. That kit, I think they do one for 100 and one for 130. It's the 130 kit that gives you absolutely everything. Now, it's very easy to do as well. They just send you some sample bottles. You pretty much send it off. You'll get your results. I've actually got a video dropping for this because I did a video consultation on a water report that I analysed. There's going to be some great information on that. I'll be dropping that probably this weekend. And the big thing is these tests are for drinking water. So the parameters set on them are based on the allowances in UK drinking water, and they're all quoted in milligrams per litre. Now, for the heavy metals, we need to be working on micrograms per litre. So you really need to do a conversion as well, and then you need the fish safe values from there. But the video I'm going to drop is actually going to be quite a good resource for that, because I do share them in it. But that is, to me, it's the best way. As I understand it, the equipment needs to be very well calibrated under laboratory conditions and very well maintained in order to get the right levels of accuracy. It's not something you can just do easily with bench meters and things like that. And it's talking about getting down to the levels that are relevant as well. Susan, question. My Kohaku Tosai lost all its Benny. Will that ever come back? No, Susan, it won't, unfortunately. I can't add any more to that. When Benny is gone, typically it's gone forever. Koi at 10 degrees, flashing, no parasites, water fine. Can they flash due to colder weather? Now, Amanda, I mean, typically we're going to look for some change in environment. Have you done something differently recently? Yes, fluctuating temperatures can cause it. Would I say they've really been fluctuating at the minute? Probably not too much. But yeah, have you done anything differently? That's one part that I would want to analyze there, in all honesty, just to see if there's, yeah, it might be that you've added some fresh water. Have you done a medication? Have you overfed? Anything along that? You say water's fine. There might be some subtle changes somewhere in that. It's quite hard for me just to say water's fine. I need specifics in order to really diversify into that. But I would say, yes, if there's fluctuations in temperature, it might cause a bit of flashing. Koi do naturally flash as well. You know, you will get the odd bit. It's just knowing when it becomes too much. But have you done anything else recently? What's the best way to sterilize secondhand K1? So yeah, I generally, I mean, drying out is a fantastic way, but yeah, generally sterilization, K1 at proper, K1, Virkon at proper disinfection doses is probably one of your absolute best. You can use chlorine as well. I've been having that conversation with somebody recently. Chlorine at kind of swimming pool doses, there'll be nothing left alive that would live in an aquatic world in that. Drying out is also fantastic. PP, you just need to make sure that you absolutely hammer it with that. But I would prefer any of the other options over that, in all honesty. There it is. Look, that's the question. What's your thoughts on it? I covered this last week, I believe. So rather than go over it again, I'm going to say please look back to the video last week, the last episode of Question Time, because I'm sure it was all discussed on there. But let's see. If I get to try it, I'll give an opinion on it. Right now, I've got no information to give you opinion, so I'm going to leave it at that. Keys, yes, Ray, that video, that update is coming. So we've got an NND Jumbo Tosai Kohaku event that, when that's out the way, because I don't want to ruin a surprise for people taking part in that, you're going to get more information and insight into what me jingling those keys all that while ago was about. Question: what's a good cheaper alternative to K1? I don't know. I use K1. People have tried to throw other stuff at me. K1 is part of my core kind of belief system and core system and whole setup. So I don't feel the need right now to change anything. Will the medias in moving beds perform as well? Who knows? Probably more capacity. All I know is I have seen for years now the way that a K1 based fluid bed system has performed. That's why it's still my go-to and choice of media. As for cheaper alternatives, I can't comment. I have seen them, but I've never used them. So I can't add any value to that. Jason, I have grown a Sankey Tosai from 12 cm to 45 cm this year, but now it's gone from a nice white to a yellow skin color. I've been feeding growth food, but will the Will it whiten up again? Yes, Jason, absolutely. The minute you start easing off those growth foods, change the diet, you'll more than likely bring the water condition up a fair bit as well. That should slowly start to come out. If you want to speed it up, Saki Pure White is amazing for that. If you're feeling fruity, that is. I'll leave there. That's quite a good one. Even though any use the Takazumi, Sakani Pro, I always struggle with that. Still not quite absorbed it. That I'm not gonna. I've used that because I was made aware of this product a long time ago before it was readily available, and I used it a couple of times this year because it can apparently be quite a good aid for recovery around sleeping disease. And I don't know if it was just coincidence, but at the time I used it, my God, it made a difference very quickly. Didn't repeat that in every pond I tried it in and used it on, and every different scenario, but in that particular batch, it is a product I've got around that I will continue to try and play around with. But as I say, it was recommended to me a long time ago from somebody I know knows about it. And yes, I've got nothing bad to say about it anyway. Could be a really useful one to have in the armory. Not necessarily using it all the time. I'm not sure I'm into that. But in this particular instance, when I did see some positive results from it. Eric, do you have any Tancho, Ginring, Gosh coming up for auction? Yes, quite possibly, Dave. I've got a few kicking around. I'm not sure where they are in the pipeline, if they've even been photographed yet. But yeah, let's wait and see. Right, let's keep trolling down. Ricky, quick question. Are there people in Niigata producing other goldfish other than tamasaba? Yes, so, I mean, not crazy amounts. I have got from my boy Saito last year, he had his Shishidama, which with the tamasaba, he crossed with Aranda. And then we had his Waking that he'd crossed with Shishidama. They were quite interesting. But other than that, I can't say I've actually seen anything other than Tamasaba in the Niigata area. The most famous prefecture in Japan for goldfish is Aichi Prefecture. Not something I've ever got massively into. I would like to go and have a look one day because of my interest in them. Just one of them things I never quite get around to. I presume that's for the intro bit. Yeah, we had some fun making that. Drabba's Koi, hi Ricky, loving your insight and you're giving up your time for the Koi community. Well, that is an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much. Should I be nervous feeding all that word mixing? Honestly, this video you're going to see very shortly. We was wondering if I were having speech problems. I think it was just the time of day. Should I be nervous feeding sake color with 2 Yamabukis and a Kiyotsuri? The aim is not to bring the red out. The aim is to bring the red out of Kohaku. Yeah, so Yamabuki probably not so much. Kiyotsuri will depend on the breeder and how stable the yellow color is. I think I've spoken about this before. So just 2 examples. I know that the yellow of Marihiro Kiyotsuri is far more stable than the yellow of Otsuka Kiyotsuri. The Otsuka one, I always manage to turn them more of an orangey color. The Marihiro one tends to stay very stable. So that will all come down to, if I can give you another example, when I was growing mango Karashigoi, I couldn't turn them. All the color food did was enhance the yellow color because it was a stable yellow. It had no negative effect on turning it more orangey. So it is going to come down to the color genetics of the particular fish on that one. Mountaintop Koi. Hey, Ricky. Love the channel and I appreciate the information. Do you weigh your food and how many times do you feed per day and what temperature do you look to achieve for growth? So I had a period last year of weighing the food when I was hand feeding a batch of DK Shiros for one of our events. It worked very well. It does work very well. But that's not the main method I go for. I've spoke about the method. It's more of using automatic feeders and timing across all that, to be honest. So The weighing method was just going to add a lot more work. I do a lot of it from what I see and managing these timed feeding windows. So without going too in depth to it, if I set a 10-minute window, because I know the pond can handle 10-minute feeding windows, I'll observe a feed, get it up to the point where they're eating for 10 minutes. And then at some point, I will reduce that down. Change it depending on our study of feed. If all of a sudden it takes them 8 minutes or 9 minutes, I start increasing feeds gradually to bring that back up to 10 minutes. And that just makes sure that I'm compensating and adjusting the feeding level as the fish grow and their appetite increases. Lee, I could share it if I have not uploaded it, so I can't right now, unfortunately. It was, wasn't it? Okay, Rad. Hi, Ricky. Been feeding Sahi Koi pure white since December 12th, but don't see any improvement on the Shiroji. Not many koi needed to get whiter, but the ones that did look the same. Shall I give it more time? So 12th, what we on? So you're just over a month. I always find that around the 4-week period, you do see a big difference, but that does really depend on your starting point, Rad. If it's a case that it's really been so subtle that you've maybe not noticed the difference, trust me, it does do something. I wouldn't say otherwise. But what you might be up against here is that it might be a male fish or something like that, where it might be that it can only make a minimal difference because it's not something that's affected through something in the diet being able to clean it up. It's something that's very natural that you can't really alter, is what I should say. So other than that, as I have said it before, it is a phenomenal winter feed. So you're doing no harm in feeding it, other than the fact it's probably harming your pocket in a big way. So yeah, Rad, feel free to share any pictures in the Telegram group if you want, and we can have a look in detail a little bit more. Can you use clay in an unheated pond? Absolutely no problems with that at all. Hi, Ricky, what's your advice for a time interval between feeds at 24 degrees? So if you are Tosite and Nisai growing every 2 hours, works very well. I normally go from 6 in the morning till 10 in the evening. If you are Nisai or above, it's good to drop it to every 3 hours just to give them a bit more time, because generally as well, it's going to take them more time to eat it. So whereas I might give a 10-minute window to Tosite and Nisai, sometimes Nisai to Sanzai and above, I actually give them an hour to eat it, because it depends on the feeding behavior of the fish. You got to take into consideration. Right, I'm going to answer a couple more, ladies and gents, and then I'm going to run with this video. Backy Shower Media, any suggestions on what to use that doesn't cost the earth? Lee, to be honest with you, you can use anything. I use the Shigure bacteria at home. It's been fantastic for me. I've got no complaints. But to be honest with you, put Flowcore in it. If you need a really cheap alternative, it'll get wet, bacteria will grow on it. It's got an half-decent surface area. Fantastic. You've really not got to overcomplicate this. A lot of the benefits from showers can come from the water flow and the air flow through them, not necessarily just the media, but anything that's got water on it will grow bacteria. It's just how much space you've got for bacteria to grow, available area in the space that you've got. But don't be fooled into any mystical claims by a lot of stuff. Right. Couple more, guys. Bear with me. I reckon, do you add salt to your ponds to fight parasites or prefer other treatments? No, not generally to fight parasites. I use salt for more stress-based, viral-based conditions. And thing is, never... how I would use it in parasites, if a parasite infestation became so severe that it severely stressed the body, I would use salt as part of the recovery process, but not to actually get rid of the parasites. Right, last one. I've actually hit the bottom there. Ray, I have a DK Shiro from one of your events. It has sumi on its lips and fins. I can see it beneath the skin. When would expect to see the sumi develop? Yes, now there's a question, Ray, isn't it? That can really depend. It could depend on your water, the temperature. Everybody says that when it gets cold, sumi develops the best. It's not necessarily that. I think when it gets too cold, you actually stop the pigment development a lot of the time. The big part for sumi is light is playing a huge part in this. Too much light, too much UV, sending it into hiding. Not enough of the light, right light, not bringing it out. However, that from when that started, it's only a young Nisai, Ray. It's only a young Nisai now, so give it time. I think as you get into next year, if it's not changed that much, you might start to, I wouldn't say worry. Sumi is fascinating stuff, but there can be things in your water as well that equally suppress it, or the light. It might just be something there not firing. And you'll generally know because you'll see how sumi does on other fish in your ponds. But just to add something to it, the DK Tatigois that I've been growing on, it's only really been the last month that I've seen radical sumi development. So that'll have been coming up, then all of a sudden it starts surfacing and changing. And now they're at a point where it's just kind of non-stop on them. It's absolutely wild. So, right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the end of question time for this week. Apologies if I have missed your question. We can always try again, or please try again next week anyway. So this area of the show now, Koi Focus, we are, I'll say, pre-recorded video. This one is going to be a good one, I think. So hopefully this will all work. But first of all, there we are, Koi Focus. So, like I say, this is pre-recorded. You can still comment and feel free to chat away while it's on. But please enjoy. I've not actually had a chance to watch all this myself yet. I hope it's as good as I've been making out. Right, we're going to do some koi appreciation, but specifically focusing on Sahi and Kiwa, because this topic, in all reality, you could probably write a book about it alone. It's very complicated, and I think there's a culture at the minute of it being completely oversimplified, and it really isn't. In Gosanki varieties in particular, we're going to look at today, it can really tell you a lot about the future of the fish, and it isn't just black and white. There really is a lot to this. These 5 fish I've selected here are 5 really high-level Sakai fish. And some of the things I'm going to point out, although not necessarily negatives, there's going to be a few things that will help you just see exactly where that fish can get in future. Just so you can see through any of the BS out there and actually get to know the truth about how these particular fish can develop. So first of all, if we take a look in the foal, a basics on what Kiwa and Sahi actually is. Kiwa is the back edge of the scale. So on this particular fish there, it's where red eats white. And that goes all throughout the fish. So red, white, red, white, red to white, red to white. That is Kiwa. Now in Kiwa, there's 2 types. There's what's known as Kamisori and Marizome. Now, unfortunately, the best example I can give you is of Kamisori. Basically, it cuts across more of straight lines cutting across the scales like that area there. Marizome is where it actually follows the edge of the scale around. So on this Sankey here, you can see down here, look, you can almost see the edge of every scale in isolation. That's Marizome Kiwa. Marizome is actually the most desirable characteristic when it comes to Kiwa. It does look truly amazing. But again, it's not straightforward. It's actually a characteristic that won't necessarily show in young fish. You can see early signs of it, and it's something that becomes more refined as the fish grows older. That can actually be said for Kiwa overall. It's not necessarily perfect from day one, because a lot's going to happen from toe side through to this side onto sand side.
Out of the two, Kiwa and Sashi will look at it in a moment. Kiwa needs to have more refinement in younger fish. Sashi, there can be more margin in it because that will change as the fish grows. So on to Sashi. Sashi is actually the front edge of the colour. So on that fish again here, it's where white goes to red. And it's actually this. So you see Kiwa here. And then the white to red where we've got this softer pink border in front of all the colour. And that goes throughout every bit of the pattern there with that one. We can see it on this Sankey. The soft pink edge where white goes to red throughout the whole fish. That is what Sashi is. Now Sashi basically is an indicator of colour in the deeper layer of skin. What it can tell us in younger fish, and I want to see Sashi in younger fish, let me be clear about that. Certainly ones where I want to know the colour has got potential to stretch. Sashi is, like I said, indicator of colour in that deeper layer. So what that means is, and what that tells us is, as that fish grows and the colour stretches, there's enough capacity there for the rest of the colour to stretch with it without it pulling apart. A young fish with absolutely no Sashi present would concern me because it could indicate that there's not a lot of depth to the colour. And if it was grown in an intensive environment or you tried to grow it too big, the colour could pull apart. So that's the basics on those two kind of covered off. Now, Kiwa and Sashi, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking it only applies to Benny. It also does apply to Sumi as well. And it can tell us all of the same things in relation to Sumi, regards quality and potential depth of the colour. I won't go into it too much today about Sumi because there's other areas that complicate that. However, like I said, the basic concepts do apply. Now, if we speak of Kiwa, I say there's the two types. Something to bear in mind, it's actually hard to indicate in this bowl of fish. Actually, this Sankey can help us. So we've got the refinement here, this Marizomi style Kiwa. But if you actually look, the colour is quite light on the edge of those scales at the moment. And a couple there, especially at the bottom, which can be more normal. What that is, that's not a problem because the Kiwa itself is actually sharp. It's just that the colour hasn't fully spread out into the edge of the scale yet. And certainly in younger fish, this can really radically change a lot as colour spreads and fills into the scales. So bear that in mind. The sharpness is there, look, but we're still waiting for the colour to actually thicken and get the consistent depth of colour in there. But that's nothing against the Sashi. You can see that, look. It's actually really beautiful Marizomi, and it goes throughout the whole fish at the moment. So you can be waiting for colour to fill into those scales in that respect. So what I can't show you in this bowl is what bad Kiwa looks like, unfortunately. But you will notice it. It's certainly when there's more than one colour involved, there's no clear distinction between all those different areas. If we look at this shower is just the epitome of amazing Kiwa for both Benny and Sumi. You'll see why when you get highly refined Kiwa, it's so exciting. Just look at this. This has Marizomi Kiwa on both the Benny and the Sumi look. We see the edge of the Sumi forming the scallop and the edge of the Benny as well. But look how sharp the distinction is where it's begun to finish between Sumi and Benny. It is bonkers. That is a really, really high level example of Kiwa. And you can see the impact that it makes. Imagine if that was all blurry, it just wouldn't have the same impact, love, that it has now. It's phenomenal. So that's quite a strong introduction to Kiwa and what we're looking for. Remember, generally for any young fish, we want it to look superb, but there is also a little bit of room for improvement, but allowing for colour filling into scales. Don't mistake the colour development for the actual Kiwa. There will still be sharpness there. It just needs more colour to fill in, and that will happen. So what we're going to look at now is the Sashi, and this is where life gets a little bit more complicated. So there's two elements I look at in Sashi. It's depth and consistency. So there's a rule that's spoken about that it should be a scale deep. That is a general and a good guide to follow. However, the problem with that is different types of Benny, being the more vivid red ones, can tend to carry a slightly deeper Sashi to them. One thing above depth I actually looked at is consistency. So in a fish, and take this for example, because this is just a really, in so many ways, a top level kohaku from Sakai. But the thing I love about it is the sashi. So the depth for this, so it has got very deep, intense belly. The depth is perfect. If we look at that bit there, look, it really is, for me, a perfect depth, especially for this sort of belly. But what then I look at is the consistency on all the other areas of the pattern. And as we move down the body, all the other areas are exactly the same depth. That is the important part. What I don't want to see is an area, say across here, where one side is substantially deeper than the other. Because what that's likely to mean is this won't fully refine. The process of sashi is as this fish grows, this will all stretch, but eventually there'll come a point where everything begins to contract as the colour fills and moves into all the right places. At that point is when the sashi becomes a tight edge. Now, if there's an inconsistency in the depth, it's likely that it will retract to its shallowest point, and the deeper area of sashi on that dan of the pattern will probably stay as it is, and there'll always be some sashi there, and that's what you want to try and avoid. Consistency of the depths of it throughout all the dans. Dan is the steps of the pattern we want to see, and then what I also want to see is a consistency in colour. Because if I just point out, if you look at that kohaku, it's consistent colour in all the sashi. If we look at this Sankey, it's a consistent colour in all the sashi throughout. Now if we look at this one, and this is the point I want to point out here, the depth is right on the edge of where I would want this, but it's a deep belly. I don't mind it at all. It's consistent across all that area. The slight negative to this, there is a slight negative, is actually this one area here. If you actually look within the sashi, there's a scale that's actually overdeveloping in colour. Now that actually ruins the consistency of the sashi, and that won't retract. What we need to hope for here is that that actually fully develops into Benny. And there's a chance that can happen. As I've been watching it, it's getting thicker and thicker and deeper. So that might actually end up forming and being part of the actual Benny pattern there, and then the rest of the sashi will refine throughout it. But that is something that will never change. Don't have anybody tell you otherwise. We need to hope that that becomes Benny, because if not, it won't refine as the rest of the sashi will for that particular fish. This Sankey here actually allows me to demonstrate a little bit about Sumi sashi, because this is a slightly less typical style of Sumi for Sakai. The typical style tends to be more like this, where Sumi comes up in little shimmies like grey shadows, and they become more and more voluminous as this grows and actually forms into full Sumi. But that will very rarely show any sashi to it, because it's a particular style of Sumi. In this case, this has been a bit more deep-rooted early on. We can see fantastic Kiwa on this back edge throughout the Sumi and the Benny look. But what you've actually got here on this one at the front edge, this particular part, is Sumi sashi. So there's often a bit of a myth that if a fish at a young age has Sumi up, it's already finished. That can be the case for some Sumi, but generally low quality Sumi. This is not low quality Sumi. What we're actually looking for here, this, as with Benny, this indicates to me that there's Sumi in the deeper layer of the skin. That's sashi. So what's eventually going to happen is that's going to come up to the surface, it's going to fill into it, and it's going to create real deep, thick, glossy Sumi. That is what I can use that for as an indicator, but it's important that you know the type of Sumi before making an assessment on that. Like I say, in the particular, this one in particular, it's hard to read Sumi sashi on that, but that's just the nature of that sort of Sumi. Just on a side note, my God, look at the shoulders on that thing. Wow. God, I love Sakai. So that is a bit of a crash course there for you in, I say crash course, a little bit more than that, but you can go on and on and on. For that, unfortunately, I need more examples of the good stuff and the bad stuff. But hopefully from this, you can get a little bit more clarity and just figure out some of the good and bad that you're looking for. The age of the fish can have a big impact on this. These are Nisai now, but they're still growing a lot. So I take age out of it, around 60-ish cm, I'm going to expect more refinement than I am at 50 cm, 40 cm, 30 cm. You get the point. But yeah, some cracking examples, and hopefully that's enough if you're new to this for you to get a basic grasp, or if you want us to get a bit more advanced for you to understand a little bit more about where it's at.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. What did you think to that? I think that was a lot of information packed in there. Hopefully not too much of an overload either. But while I get a few bits loaded up, if you've got any questions about that, feel free to fire them in now and I will answer those. Otherwise, we're going to get on with the auction segment. So... and yeah, Luke actually pointed something out. That was an absolutely insane bowl of koi. And yeah, Spreadsheet actually owns, if you don't know who Spreadsheet is, that's Chris, who obviously manages my spreadsheets for me. And he's watching backstage as well. I can imagine he's absolutely spitting venom at the minute. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm going to do a social post on that particular shower in there because yeah, wow. And that was actually before he started working with me. And no pressure. Not yet, babe. Yeah. That shower was a fish he actually purchased off me and put a great deal of trust into me, because that as a young Tosai looked nothing, and it even looked a bit ropey at the time. So yeah, look out for that coming somewhere tomorrow. Yeah, other than that, I can't see. Yes, you've all heard about Spreadsheet on Telegram. The many names he goes by. It's actually become a bit of a team thing. I'm making up a new nickname for it at the minute. It's good fun. The Potato Farmer's another one. I'm going to leave that there. Right. Anyway, I don't think I've missed anything. Oh, Richard, we all know better, don't we? And I'm actually fair play for the missus to watching as well, or is this a forced one again, buddy? Right. Anyway, you're going to have to bear with me with this because I'm going to have a hell of a lot going on. So the auction format, in fact, let's roll before we get into it, because I think you might like this one. So, ladies and gentlemen, time for our live auction.
On the roll of aluminum here, what are you selling now? Get 25, get 10, get 5. Somebody get $5 here. On the aluminum here, what do you get 5 too? And $2 and 3. You got to get 3 to bid, 3
Brilliant. Yes. So the format on this, some of you may well remember it from back in the day when we started all this over here on YouTube. You'll see everything. So it's just a couple of listings this evening. You bid in the comments. All the details will be on the screen. I'll also talk through any questions you've got. I'm not going to set any time limits on these at the moment. We might do as we get to it. And in future weeks, there will be more listings than I've got this evening. This is just a bit of a practice run, in all honesty, because there's a lot I've got to figure out with all this and just refine the process. So do be aware there is a bit of a lag on the comments coming through from YouTube. We've not got Facebook interfering with this time, but there is always a bit of lag for it actually making it through to my screen. So at the point of me calling it, I go with what I see on my screen here, and that is final. So if you do want in, don't leave it too long. There we go. Can't say much more other than that, really. So for this one, I'm going to have to get all posh, ladies and gents, because I'm going to have to move myself up here. First one up is the Dainichi shower that I've got. And we've got a video of that as well. So like I say, all you need to do to bid is fire it into the comments. Now, I'll go through the bits and charges that we've got that might apply to these. Now, we've also got minimum bid increments as well, which I've just realized you see already I've not put on there. So I'll be announcing that one per fish. Now, this particular one is, like I say, we had it lined up. It was going to include growing. However, I noticed I was doing the picture. You might see it. Look, the mouth is very, very slightly off-centered, which is a real shame. Nothing detrimental to its health whatsoever, and it's certainly not stopped it growing or anything like that, because the thing's got a giant mouth. But I couldn't honor where I was originally going to go with the price on this one. However, we will open the bidding at £100. Optional extras on this one, there is the option to overwinter it until the end of March, and minimum bid increments on this one will be a £5. So if anybody does fancy a go, starting bid is £100. You just have to bid in the comments. Let's see where we end up with this one. So, yeah, parent set. This is the Dainichi. This is from Mona Lisa. It's a batch of fish. Yeah, sorry. Well, Mick, asking a question there. Yes, this is a public auction. Sorry, I should have explained that. So this is directly with me now under the Ricky Stoddart Nishikigoi retail brand that we've set up. So, yeah, at the end of the auction as well, if you've been successful with the bid, we will contact you directly. We handle all of the payments and everything directly with you. I say we'll contact you. We need to get you to contact us through the YouTube format, but I've got a bit of a ticker for that one. So anyway, we're in £100 with Mick at the moment on that one to get that kicked off. Like I say, minimum bid increments of £5 on this one, and I'll give you a warning before I close up. Yeah, so all from Dainichi, the really ever popular Mona Lisa parent set that they spawn off, one of the most prestigious at Dainichi. Pattern wise on this, so the body setup is really nice. Now, I attempted to sex it earlier, and it was very, very difficult in the sense of I actually looked at it and thought it would be male. Adrian, we're at 125 on that one now. Yeah, I attempted to sex it. So from the fin, I got female. From the vent, I got no sperm or anything like that. But to me, it looks like it's going to be male. Hence why I've gone with unknown. I've got it every best shot, but I'm just not prepared to commit either way. But likewise, there was nothing indicating to me that it was going to be a male fish. At 150 now with Scott. There's no additional charges on the auctions either, i.e. there's no VATs or additional commissions. The price you bid is the price you pay. The overwintering fee for this one to the end of March is £50. If you want to have it shipped, our charge per box is £30. Obviously, you can get multiple fish in a box as well. Adrian now at 175. So yeah, that's where we're at with the gender on that one. We've got Mick at 180 now. So yeah, unconfirmed. Regarding the fish, the body setup is very nice. Now, this is a pattern that can be hard to process because of, again, confusion around the teaching that it needs to be a koaku pattern with Showa. It doesn't at all. Anybody who understands Showa these days in Japan, currently at 200 now, who understands Showa in Japan knows that most of the, yeah, there we go. Look, I will leave that on the screen. Yeah. Let's see, that's annoying me now. It's the design. We'll work on that. Yeah, so most modern show in Japan, it's all about, and this is my preaching on this, it's about the balance of three colors on the fish. And that's where that comes in. Now, a heavier block can work, but it depends what's going on the rest of the body. Now, for me, what balances this heavy block in the middle there is the fact you've got the Benny nicely at the front end, a bit lighter on the head at the minute, but you have got the Benny at the back end as well. Makes a massive difference to it. With that, there's also a tiny bit of shiroji in there at the peduncle, so all that's not too heavy. I would expect to see some sumi on the head. I'm not sure how much, but with the style of sumi that this fish has, I probably would have expected that to start showing by now. However, it's still a very young fish, and there's a lot of time needed. You can see from the video as well down the side of the fish I love Craig's assessing the Kiwa and Sahi. Well, actually, yeah, if you do look at that, especially on this front end of the fish, there is nice Marizomi Kiwa forming. You can see that on the first down of Benny. You can actually see as well on the Suma that's more refined on the shoulder that also is forming very, very nice Kiwa there. The bits, the Sumi kind of mid-body, you have to bear in mind with this that is in development at the moment. So it's not messy. It looks a little bit messy, but that's because the Sumi is progressing up to the surface, which is then it will start to form and get its lacquer and its shine. So we are at £200 on this one at the minute with Adrian. We'll give it a couple more minutes before I look to call time on this one. Like I say, no additional charges other than any optional extras, which in this case, overwintering is £50 if you want it to stay to the end of March. Our overwintering service, they are kept at 18 degrees and, of course, fed Saki Yakari. Fed quite a bit as well. It's not growing, but we aim to keep the body volume in top condition, ready for you getting it in spring. And the likelihood is, they often do put a tiny bit of size on in that process, but the aim is to keep it looking superb for you. So there we have it. What we're asking there. Would some of the Sumi recede as it matures like a young Sankey? Yeah, that's an interesting question, Jeff. No, not with this one. I mean, we are at a Nisai now with this. I don't expect any Sumi to recede, but what you're going to get is refinement. Now, there's areas in that block where the skin looks a little bit blue-grey. I don't think that's going to turn into Sumi. In fact, I know it's not going to turn into Sumi, but what will happen is as it gets a bit bigger and the Shiroji gains some more thickness, that will actually become more prominent Shiroji in the pattern in amongst that block of Sumi, which is when you start looking at that is an interesting angle to it. The whole thing of, baby Sumi is an interesting topic. It's a complicated topic. Not all Sumi on young fish is baby Sumi. It depends on the variety. It can depend on the breeder, the bloodline. It's another term that generally now, because I've used it a few times, it tends to get thrown around too much. But it's complicated stuff, and it's understanding, all those bits behind it before you actually just go saying, yeah, it's baby Sumi. It's going to fall off. Pierre coming there now at 2:15 on that one. I'm just wondering if I can move where that sits because that is going to annoy me. But anyway, minor things. There's not really too much more I can say about that one now. No Motogoro present at the moment. Actually, interested in that fish. There's still time. It could show up because it might need to come from a little bit deeper in the fin. However, I actually think in this case with the heavy Sumi, Motogoro is not actually needed in that, and it might actually be better longer term if it didn't come up, interestingly enough. Adrian there, come back now at 2:20. But yeah, I'd say plenty more ahead for this one. Really, really. Dainichi show will just drive me mad. It's their auction coming up again at the minute. I'm finding it very hard to sit on my hands. I did have a dabble in the last one for some particular pieces I was after. And Dainichi Toyota as well, but I'm sure we'll get to see some of those soon enough. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to look to wrap this one up now and get on. I just wondered who that was then. Just in case you're wondering, ladies and gentlemen, that is Arthur from his... It'll take him a while on pocket money he's on to pay that off. That is him on his new YouTube channel. Absolutely tropical and aquarium obsessed at the moment. Arthur, that beard is invalid. Yeah, so Pierre 245 on this one. So I'll tell you what I am going to do. So we're not going on forever, ladies and gents. I'm going to set a 60-second timer. And when that goes off, I will read it rather than call it. I will read it with the, I'll go with the final bid that is in my comments at that time. So There we go, ladies and gents. That is underway now. We've got a minute left. Remember, on £5 increments. We're at 250 now with Adrian. What do you think to the layout and format, ladies and gents? We honestly, Aaron, with me absolutely breathing down his neck, has really put a lot of work into putting all this together. I'm very, very pleased with what he's done. It's nice to get all this sat on the one screen as well. So didn't want to deprive you of seeing my pretty face throughout it. Last 20 seconds on this one. We're Adrian at 250. I think the timer, you should hear it as well anyway. Last 10. Oh, there we go. That's what wakes me up in the morning. There we go. So, Adrian, fantastic. Thank you very much. 250 on that one. Adrian, so if you're in our WhatsApp or Telegram, if you could reach out to us with your details, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, feel free to email in there, look, info@koiretailservices.com, and we'll get all that sorted for you. We just need to know as well if you would like overwintering with that or not. And thank you very much for your bid. Right, now I need to wind all this screen back and go with the next one. Yes, Adrian, you can have overwintering. Cool. Okay, next one. Oh, look at that. Look, Pierre's bid just dropped in now. That was the lag. That's absolutely crazy. But there we go. One to bear in mind, ladies and gents. Next one up. This Maruyama Kohaku is an impressive piece, to say the least, I think. Right, let's get rid of the video. Just look at that. Everything that makes a Maruyama Kohaku special. So, format with this one. As you can see there, optional extras on this are further and additional growing. So, this is currently in my 3.5K pond. That growing, they are at 25 degrees at the minute and being fed incredibly well on the feeder. We're at 43 cm already. There's going to be quite a lot to come from that one. Yeah, so that optional growing is for an additional fee of £100 through to the end of March, but that is a full growing service, and I will attempt to do my absolute best on that one for you. Starting bid is £200, and we're going with increments of £10 on this one, ladies and gentlemen. That bidding is now open. Feel free, and we're going to get into discussing the ins and outs of this one. So, yes, is Nisai. It is female, absolutely confirmed. Where to start with that one? I think with Maruyama Kohaku in general is probably where we'll start. So Maruyama is one of the few, as a breeder and a farm, he's one of the Dainichi Obikai, which is basically like an old boys club. It's for people who have trained at Dainichi before they went off to start their own farm or take over a family farm or something like that. So, yeah, the Obikai. So what happened? He actually, Maruyama, Nogami, and Dainichi themselves are the only farms we're aware of that have the famous Dainichi Kagura strain within their Kohaku. Absolutely amazing. But what you get from that is this phenomenal Benny, and really, really phenomenal Benny. Look, bright red, snow white with phenomenal shine and luster on it. So unique, but that's what made that particular fish unique. Opening bid there, we're on Alex at 200 on that one. Like I say, we're going with increments of a tenner on this one. Yeah, so that Kagura strain sits within Maruyama, sits within Nogami. It's obviously not a completely pure descendant now. It was a long time ago, but them characteristics are deeply rooted within the fish. As for the fish itself, and obviously that's where the Benny comes from. I think you can see the body there is absolutely stacked. Very, very powerful shoulders on there. Really, really strong. Great head setup to it as well. You can see the prominence of the backbone. It's got a stocky body. So although it's got the length, it's got that stockiness around the shoulders, which is going to be there always because it's part of the bone structure. And with that spine, what happens eventually is it's obviously needs to be bold to carry the weight, but eventually the mass will even out around it as well. You can see great power at the peduncle as well. Absolutely superb. For the rest of the fish, as we begin to look through them technicalities we discussed tonight, the Kiwa, and more, you really see the Kiwa when you see the side shots of the fish as well. Absolutely fantastic Marizome. It is like it's razor cut down them sides. It looks absolutely crisp. Superb stuff. Sashi is in a fantastic place on that, as you can see. Look, even for a deep Benny, it's sat really quite softly on there with a fantastic depth. So you're pretty much assured with that, and it's even and consistent throughout. So there's going to be a lot of refinement to that as it gets bigger as well. Then we really move on to the pattern, and I think that again has got a real nice flow to it across the whole body. It's really, really well balanced as well. I think overall, you see that there. Look, now it's on the side shot on the video. Look how crisp that Kiwa is. The Sashi even looks so crisp down there as well. Superb piece, and like I say, female to go with it all at the same time. But right now as well, I mean, it's lining up beginner's luck on this one, I think. Oh no, Matthew's come in there, look, 220. But even still, this is phenomenal value right now. It's crazy, in fact, to think if you go with you haven't got to go with the additional growing option, by the way. We can overwinter it, which will mean it will get moved out of the pond it's in into one of our overwintering ponds. It's the usual £50 charge for that, or we can get it ready to be shipped as well if you'd prefer to do that with it. Look at that as it swims, and body proportions are absolutely stunning. Currently at £220, ladies and gentlemen. That is just nuts. Yes, Jeff, you're right. Mariama. Actually, that is something. Someone was asking me the other day if Sakai, if anybody can ever really challenge Sakai's dominance at the show. And I said, look, the likelihood is it might be a once in an every 10 years scenario or something like that. But there is always a chance. And one of the guys that has actually done it now on 2 occasions is Mariyama. And he's done it with Kohaku and he's done it with Showa, which is an unbelievable achievement, really. You consider Sakai is not even close to doing it with Showa. And then out there, to do it twice, that's just absolute testament to what the guy is doing there, really. And yes, it was 102 cm. Mariyama Kohaku do have incredible growth potential in them genetically, and that's deep in the heritage, and then obviously from his line breeding throughout it all as well. But we are currently still at 230 there with Julian, Matthew, and Alex. Have we got any other bids from you guys on this one? Just wondering how long that delay actually is on all this. And feel free, guys, while we're on this, let me know in the comments if there's anything in particular that you'd like to see coming up in the auctions. I just generally have a look around and see what catches my eye. But of course, there's absolutely all sorts. Anthony, I probably missed it. I did actually. I posted it in our WhatsApp group. The Ginrin I lined up, I'm not including because its body was really quite badly bent, unfortunately. There we go. From a growth perspective, because people often ask, so these, like I say, they are heavily on the food if you opt to go with that additional option. And yeah, I mean, from 43 there, so we've currently we've got probably about 9 weeks till the end of the growing period. I would expect this to be getting close to around that 50 centimeter mark, which is huge difference. And of course, what I'm always working on is getting that volume up as much as we can with them as well. Anyway, it doesn't look like Alex or Matthew have got too much more to, or no other bids coming through on that one. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes and I'm going to look to, as well, I forgot to mention that. So any fish in our care, whether it's overwintering, growing, whatever it is, comes with a full life guarantee. While it's in our care. So should the worst happen, very rarely has to be called upon. What we do is we don't offer a replacement fish. We just give you a credit to use as you wish. A few bids fired in there, guys. So we're up to 260 now on that one. Yeah, to use as you wish in a future auction or any of the other listings and stuff that we've got going on. That was a clump there, all come through at the same time. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do with this. And next week, we are going to use a timer on this to be able to bring it to an end. So right now, you'll see it. I'm about to set a 5-minute timer on this one, ladies and gents. So if you are bidding and you want to try and snipe it, you might want to set that. But that has now begun. 5 minutes left on this one. But other than that, I think that's all run quite smoothly this evening. Very, very pleased with all that. I'm just, I think, a bit more preparation next week, so I'm not scrambling in at the last minute, putting all the final pieces together. And I think I need to remember to eat next week before I do this because I'm absolutely starving. Anyway, at 260, we're on increments of a tenner on this one. We're just approaching the 4-minute mark now. Yeah, they're an absolutely dream. I personally, with Kohaku, I like the more vivid bennies. I always have done. It's a real preference on it. Not just bright red. I mean, the depth and quality is all there with these, but this particular, it's why Dainichi has really, really stood out for me because this Kagura heritage, but the deep red Benny is something that typically does stem from Dainichi anyway. And they're just Kagura. Kagura is a little bit like, to be honest, another huge one, which I'm so glad to have a descendant of in the ranks, is Dainichi Toyota Kinsen. Kinsen was just another level, I think, in regards to sort of Benny and Sumi and all the Benny and Shiroji, sorry. And we've really seen that. Say we've got the fish that's growing on there, 83 cm now. What he said is one of the best descendants from that line as well, a direct descendant from Kinsen. You just get these fish every now and again that have these super, even when the base qualities are good, super standout attributes, and that's what makes them winners as well. Asking me there how many fish got entered into AJK. I'm not 100% sure. Not gone crazy mad with it this year, Jeff. I think there's about 4 or 5 customers fish going in. One very special one though. I know Mickey's watching, but his Dainichi male shower from Toyota as well is in the mix, and we've got our fingers crossed. No, we can't ship to the US or the EU at the moment. Being asked there by Ruben. Anyway, we're at £260 with Alex on this one. We've got 2.5 minutes left on the timer. Julian also asking when the documentary is landing. Yes, so we've obviously sidetracked because we filmed. Oh God, what have we filmed? We've done the video today. We've been doing all the assets for this, so we've kind of had a week off from it. Aaron's been doing little bits in between, but with that stuff, it's nice to load the whole project up. And it's really at a point now where I'm going to sit and just re-watch through him and really tweak and improving. Tiny bit more filming we need to do for it as well, actually, to fill a gap that we need. But I am excited to drop that. There's a serious amount of man hours gone into it to make what I think is a fascinating story come across as well as we can do it. Just approaching 1.5 minutes. It looks like Alex might run away with this one at 260. Oh, Lee wanting to bid, but he's had a stinger. Sorry to hear that, mate. So like I say, next week, there will be a host of different listings that we're going to pop onto here. And I will let you see them all in advance as well. We'll get that out there. I just run out of time to do that this week in getting all this prepared. Last minute, ladies and gentlemen. Still looks like Alex is getting an absolute bargain here. Ian there now at 280. We are into the last 40 seconds. Anybody got another bid for us? Bob's Bites in Portugal needs 10 of these fish. If I've got 10 of them, Bob, if we can get them to you. Last 30 seconds, ladies and gents, with Ian at 280. $20 seconds. Like I say, I am going to go with what I see on my screen. Alex there now at 290. Last 10 seconds. Anthony there, 300. Anthony's came in first at 300. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That noise is really horrible, isn't it? I knew that would catch. But anyway, I got that there with Anthony with the £300 bid. Alex, I did just get yours just after, mate, unfortunately. There we go. Thank you very much. Anthony, I'll just run that banner for you to see. Feel free to reach out to any of us on WhatsApp, Telegram, or send an email in there with your details. And let me know if you would like growing, overwintering, or shipping on that one. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I don't know what I've just done there. Anyway, right, I'm losing all my spots here. Yes, that was a bargain. Absolute steal. Right. Let me get all this stripped down. We'll get it back to the normal screen. Far too many buttons to be pressing here. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. So thank you very, very much. Oh, yeah, that's actually a point. Spreadsheet's just texting me there. We can accept and we will accept proxy bids if you're unable to join in on the live on the night but would like to bid. You can get them into us via WhatsApp or Telegram as well, and we'll make a note of all of those. There we are. Hope you've enjoyed that. I think that's gone very well. And thank you to everybody that tuned in. We just peaked there at around 300 viewers. I think it did hit 300, maybe just over at one point. That is absolutely amazing. And be back with more of that next week as well. Other than that, I am off for a glass of water first to wet my whistle. And then... I see Ant's messaged me already on Telegram, keen to get his bargain of the century there with growing. There we go. That's the way the auctions go, ladies and gents. We never know, but I always make the best effort to put the best fish into them as well. So there we have it. Thank you very much. And what was that? Traditional landline. Traditional landline payments. Yeah, when the telephone line's up, we can do it that way as well, actually. Good point. So when that is all running, we'll get all the details on the screen so you can get in touch. But can I put a link to the Telegram? The 2 QR codes there in the bottom, or they're in the description for you to just go in there and hit that one. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And I will be back next week, same place, same time. I'll see you then.